The crystal throne pulsed with an ethereal light, each heartbeat of color refracting through the gargantuan prisms that formed the Zenithal Empire's grand conclave hall. From this throne room perched on a floating spire above the gas giant, Orpheus prime rulers of 1,000 worlds beheld the fates of countless civilizations, yet none had so tantalized them as the small, blue world called Earth. High Chancellor Malcor ascended the dais, his obsidian robes, woven from the silken threads of void-dwelling arachnids, whispered against the crystalline floor. Every step echoed through the vast chamber, and all turned to watch as he raised his gauntleted hand. The gathered conclave, a semicircle of stern-faced dignitaries, each representing a conquered star system, fell silent. Esteemed members of the grand conclave, Malcor began, his voice amplified into sonorous resonance. Since our rise, the Zenithal Empire has known only triumph. We have subdued 10,000 worlds, each bowing in deference to our will. Yet in the outer spiral of this galaxy lies a curious anomaly, a world teeming with life, unallied, untested. Holographic star maps flickered behind him, zooming in. On the Sol system, a blue marble rotated slowly. Earth, its swirling clouds and patchwork continents seemed a trivial prize to an empire accustomed to seizing gas giants and ringed behemoths. But for Malcor, the moment held symbolic weight. Humanity stood at the threshold of interstellar relevance. In the last cycle, he continued, their primitive sensors detected our probes. Hours ago, their leaders, those who call themselves United Nations, acknowledged our presence. They tremble with fear. Yet still they dare to speak of defense. Foolish. A ripple of amused sighs passed through the conclave. The Zenithals prided themselves on ruthlessness, unbending reality itself to their will. What threat could these carbon-based creatures pose below that distant blue sphere? Life pulsed with ordinary urgency. In Geneva, the vaulted chamber of the United Nations Security Council brimmed with tense anticipation. President Luz Carmen sat at the center of a long slate table, flanked by the world's most senior diplomats and military leaders. Her dark hair was pulled back in a simple knot, and in her eyes glimmered both resolve and fatigue. The livestream feed crackled, in orbit above Orpheus Prime. Malcor's declaration played simultaneously on every screen and holo display across Earth. English, Mandarin, Hindi, Arabic, Swahili, Quechua, every tongue the United Nations recognized translated his words in real time. Surrender your planet, the Zenithal voice intoned. Submit to our rule, and we shall grant you mercy. Gasps echoed. Around the chamber, France's ambassador clenched her fists. Russia's delegate pounded the table. But President Carmen remained calm. She raised a hand, and the room stilled. Ladies and gentlemen, she said, voice steady, we have prepared for this longer than they suspect. Our probes may have seemed unsophisticated to the Empire, but each one carried our best scientists' designs. We have been readying defenses, forging alliances, and consolidating command structures. They underestimate our unity. A low murmur of agreement swept through the assembly. From Beijing, Vice President Li Wei nodded. From Brasilia, General Montoya tapped his pen thoughtfully. Even the smallest nations had contributions. Engineers from Nairobi who optimized drone swarms, physicists in Mumbai prosecuting quantum encryption, agricultural scientists in Buenos Aires ensuring food reserves. Against siege, Earth, for all its divisions, was coalescing into a single organism. Back in Geneva, Carmen accepted the mic. We will reply in kind. We offer parley, not subjugation. We will not bow, we will negotiate. But if the Empire insists on war, then they will find us ready. As her words faded, the chamber erupted into applause. Across the globe, people exhaled in unison. From the slums of Lagos to the penthouses of New York, humanity clasped hands with hope, even as dread loomed on every horizon. Children paused their games to watch the broadcast. Factory workers halted assembly lines. Farmers set down their hoes and stared skyward. Never had Earth faced an external threat so existential, and never before had it responded so collectively. In Delhi's subterranean laboratory, Dr. Aisha Patel adjusted the final calibrations on the quantum shield array. Panels of interlocking graphene and superconducting coils hummed with power. Months of round-the-clock calculations, funded by a coalition, of nations had produced this, the first real chance to repel an interstellar fleet. Nearby, technicians monitored fractal displays, ready to deploy at a moment's notice. Thousands of kilometers away, on the hardened decks of the International Space Command Station, Admiral Kenji Sato and Captain Maria Alvarez watched the looming threat through sensor rays. Their dreadnoughts craft modest by zenithal standards, but formidable by human engineering, sat prepared in low Earth orbit. Solar sails glinted, railguns charged, and antimatter capacitors winked in their containment fields. Every officer aboard knew the gravity of the moment. Every sailor braced for history. Meanwhile, deep beneath the Antarctic ice, Project Helios undertook its silent vigil. Dr. Elena Marquez oversaw the growth of nanoparticle cultures in cryogenic vats. These particles, designed to catalyze controlled microsingularities, represented humanity's most daring gamble. If deployed, they could neutralize a warship or an entire armada in a cascade of spacetime distortions. But the risks were immense. A miscalibration could tear open a rift in Earth's own neighborhood. Yet as tensions soared, so did the will to survive. Round the world, symbols of unity flourished. Street artists in Rome painted murals of interlinked hands reaching toward the stars. Musicians in Johannesburg composed anthems merging classical strings with digital beats. In Sao Paulo's favelas, children performed choreographed dances inspired by satellite telemetry patterns. Social media exploded with hashtags like #OneEarth, #StandTogether, #Defy the Empire. On July 24th, 2025, the date now etched in every historian's mind, High Chancellor Mail Corps Envoy ship, the Celestial Omen, lowered its shimmering banner over Earth's orbital ring. The transmission looped endlessly. Cease all resistance. Submit or be obliterated. All across the planet, screens flickered. None went dark. President Carmen, watching from the Situation Room beneath the Palais des Nations, exchanged a look with General Montoya. They had chosen their words carefully. Now, they would choose their next move with equal precision. Open the channels, Carmen said softly. Let them hear us, not as subjects, but as equals. In the silent expanse between stars, two civilizations faced each other across a gulf of light years. One believed in conquest by firepower. The other believed in the strength of unity. And as the zenithal empire's ultimatum echoed through space, Earth answered not with fear, but with resolve. The galaxy held its breath. In that moment, as data streams converged and the engines of war stirred, both sides understood history was poised to turn its page. Whether to a chapter of devastation or an unexpected dawn remained unwritten. But for humanity, this chapter would begin with hope.
At precisely 3:17 UTC on July 24, 2025, the vacuum of space above Earth ruptured like torn silk. A rift of pale blue light fractured reality as 10 colossal zenithal dreadnoughts slid from hyperspace, their hulls gleaming obsidian and bristling, with weapon arrays beyond human comprehension. From the surface, the sky blinked as if twin suns had descended, each vessel blotting out constellations. Dawn of battle in New Tokyo's Orbital Command Citadel. Admiral Kenji Sato stood before the panoramic viewport as the dreadnoughts loomed. His uniform, once crisp and ceremonial, was now smeared with grease and sweat. Beside him, Captain Maria Alvarez keyed a holographic control pad. All batteries online. Phase calibrations at 97%. Alvarez's voice was steady, belying the tension that knotted her shoulders. Sato exhaled, fingers trailing over the railing. Activate the quantum shield array. Below them, kilometers of superconducting coils and graphene panels, Earth's secret war prize hummed. To life, beams of iridescent energy snaked skyward, weaving a shield dome around Earth's upper atmosphere. This dome, once theoretical, now rippled like water frozen in mid-crest, each cell a lattice of folded space that the Empire's crushing might on board the lead dreadnought Oblivion's Edge. High Colonel Breakther watched the shield form with disbelief. He had conquered 1,000 worlds. Never had he faced defenses so unnatural. He barked orders in the guttural zenithal tongue, and the dreadnought's foredeck blinked as its superheated graviton cannons powered up. Fire! Breakthur's roar echoed through the command spire. A lance of green-white energy lanced out, streaking toward Earth with the fury of a collapsing star. But as it struck the quantum shield, it dissolved into a shower of fractal light. No explosion. No shockwave, only the silent distortion of reality itself. Breakthur's mandibles quivered. "Repeat at maximum yield," he snarled. Yet every weapon they unleashed, tachyon beams, plasma lances, graviton mortar shells, met the same fate. Each attack folded into the shield, dispersing without so much as a tremor. Humanity's response on the ground. Humanity watched in stunned awe. In New York's Central Park, a crowd gathered around a shattered section of roadway turned impromptu command center. Engineer Amina Hassan, fresh from calibrating the shield's neural feedback loops, clutched her tablet as the live feed confirmed success. "We did it," she whispered, tears glinting like starlight dot in the streets of Lagos. Makeshift celebrations erupted. Children danced in the fountain mist. Elders wept in joyous relief. Across continents, musicians broadcast an anthem of defiance blaring. Trumpets, pounding drums, and voices chanting in unison. One Earth, one defense. Meanwhile, in Snow Paolo's underpasses, renegade hacker collectives broke into criminal databases and siphoned resources for the war effort transport. Drones, hospital reserves, even carnival floats repurposed as mobile command posts. Guns and tanks were good, but the architects of victory knew the battle was as much digital as it was physical. The dreadnought strike teams high above. The zenithal warships split into strike teams. Squadron Gamma 3 dreadnoughts dived toward the Atlantic, intending to breach the shield over the ocean and rain destruction on coastal cities. Squadron Delta targeted the Indian Ocean, aiming to sever Earth's trade arteries. On board the INS Kagayaki, Admiral Sado monitored each vector. "Deploy orbital interceptors," he ordered. Sleek human frigates, equipped with electromagnetic pulse warheads, flanked the dreadnoughts. They darted through the void like silver fish, each causing minor disruptions in the Empire's energy grids. Still, the dreadnought escorts shrugged off the hits, their energy fields quickly regenerating. "Admiral," Captain Alvarez reported, "we're detecting high-velocity drill projectiles launching from the Nemesis Archon. They're attempting to ram through the shield physically." Sado tapped his cum. "All ships, prepare counter-rotation thrusters. Race for impact zones. Fire point defense lasers on my mark." Now, streams of laser fire laced the night, slicing the projectiles apart before they reached the shield. Debris burned harmlessly. In the upper atmosphere, civilian front lines and Earth's surface, the war was more subtle, but no less critical. In the vast underground silo beneath New Delhi, Dr. Aisha Patel and her team monitored power fluctuations. Their task: divert excess energy from the quantum shield into grid storage, preventing catastrophic overloads. When the shield surged to 120% capacity, Patel's face lit with grim triumph. "We're holding," she announced. "In the heart of the Sahara, a solar farm, once droning emptily under the desert sun, now fed reactors that cooled the shield's superconductors. Nomadic tribes lent their ancient knowledge of sandstorms to camouflage the relay towers against zenithal detection. A glimmer of Empire doubt back on Oblivion's edge. High Colonel Brechther stared at the tactical display. Losses were mounting 3. Strike craft disabled, 2 frigates destroyed, and shields on the dreadnought itself flickering. Beside him, Captain Threlix hesitated, rare doubt flickering in his silver eyes. "Commander," Brechther barked, "report." Threlix swallowed. "Their defenses adapt. Every new tactic we try, they counter it faster. They learn as we strike." Brechther's mandibles clicked in anger. Then we break them with fear. He reached for the command lever that would load the planet-cracking obsidian lance. Prepare the ultimate weapon. A world united at ground level. Humanity's unity became its sanctum. In Paris, fields of solar drones formed luminous runways. In Moscow, crowds donated blood to keep field hospitals stocked. In Canberra, oceanographers repurposed research submersibles as emergency transport. All across Earth, trains ran on borrowed. Power refusing to grant the Empire even a single downtime dot. As the night deepened, the quantum shield glowed like a second moon. Beneath it, a species once small and divided now stood as one. And above, the zenithal dreadnoughts hovered imposing. Inscrutable, and for the first time in 10,000 conquests, unsure. The first salvo had been fired. The first salvo had been repelled in the silent aftermath. Both sides recalibrated. The Empire reeled at its impotence. Earth exulted in its triumph. But neither side foresaw the storms gathering on the horizon storms. Of singularities and cosmic gambits that would soon rend the very fabric of space and bind their destinies forever. The obsidian lance blazed through the void, a spear of living darkness trailing ethereal coronas of compressed spacetime. On board the flagship Oblivion's Edge, High Colonel Breakthrough watched its progress on the tactical holomap, every fiber of his being coiled for the moment of impact. Below him, 12 dreadnoughts waited in formation, ready to press the advantage once the planet cracker had done its work. But far beneath Earth's frozen wastes, in a labyrinth of steel corridors carved into the heart of Antarctica, humanity's most audacious gamble prepared to awake under the ice DR. Elena Marquez swept a strand of hair from her forehead and peered at the vats of swirling silver nanoparticles. Each droplet contained trillions of engineered proteins, programmed to self-assemble into microsingularities on command. For 2 years, she and her team at Project Helios had toiled in secrecy. Quantum physicists, microbiologists, and eye specialists working in constant rotation to keep the project hidden from prying eyes, both imperial and terrestrial. Injection. Cores are at 99% integrity, Marquez announced, voice taut with restrained excitement. Around her, the hydroponic glare of fluorescent lamps bathed the lab in cold light. Technicians tapped data streams on holopads, translating theoretical equations into pulse-modulated waveforms. Dr. Arun Desai, the project's lead quantum engineer, floated a status report. Magnetic containment fields are holding. Predictive models show less than a 2% chance of cascade instability, a polite understatement that tousled Marquez's nerves every time she heard it. She ran her fingers over the cold metal of the central console. Then we're go for launch. The birth of Helios 3 weeks earlier, the final prototype of the autonomous relay drone nicknamed Hellowing had been tested at the Kennedy Exoplanetary Range. Each Hellowing carried a microreactor, too. Power its booster and a nanofabrication core to seed the nanoparticles into space. They were designed for one-way missions. Launch, climb through the stratosphere, disperse their payload, and extinguish. Marcus still remembered the first flight test. The drone had fizzed into the sky with a roar like a starship's afterburner, then vanished into the clouds. Telemetry had shown the swarm forming a translucent lattice above the stratosphere, an otherworldly lacework visible only in ultraviolet. When the test warhead struck it moments later, the spark ignited a wave of microsingularities that shredded the projectile into stardust. Humanity's gamble had worked, but tests in controlled conditions were one thing. Facing a true obsidian, Lance was another entirely. The eve of deployment in the command bunker, a half-submerged control room hummed with tense energy. Generators rumbled beneath the ice. Bundled cables snaked along beams like mechanical vines. Technicians in thermal suits monitored feed from a dozen high-altitude drone pads. Altitude cameras check. reported Lieutenant Sasha Red, her voice crackling through a comlink. All 12 helloings at deployment altitude. Through a narrow viewport, the Antarctic night sky glittered. Above, the faint green of the aurora mingled with the pale corona of the quantum shield. It was a sight that would have been breathtaking if Marcus had the luxury to enjoy beauty. "Begin dispersal sequence," she ordered. The control room lights dimmed. On slim monitors, 12 plasma nozzles glowed, and ejected columns of silver missed into the stratosphere. The nanoparticles drifted upward on thermal currents, their swarms coalescing into a nearly invisible sheath around Earth's magnetosphere. Desai checked his console. Swarm perimeter 95% complete. All sectors green. He let out a breath. Project Helios is live. Collision of worlds back at the Oblivion's edge. Sensors screamed as the obsidian lance pierced the outer edge of Earth's vacuum. On Breakthrough's hollow table, its trajectory vector was flawless until the readings glitched. The lances, Tachyon disruptor, began to fluctuate wildly. "Report!" Breakthrough's mandibles clicked with impatience. Tactical Officer Viherus spun in his seat. "The lance, it's destabilizing. Energy readings are collapsing, like the weapon's core is imploding." Seconds later, the void itself seemed to shiver. The obsidian lance blinked out of existence in a silent collapse, leaving behind only a dim ripple in the sensor field. Gasps echoed through the command chamber. Dreadnought captains exchanged bewildered looks. On Breakthrough's display, the readouts shifted from tactical data to cascading error codes. "This cannot be," Breakthrough hissed. His claws danced over the control spines, trying to recalibrate. Sensors. What sorcery have these primitives wrought? Shock waves of victory on Earth. The moment the lance vanished, the quantum shield brightened, resonating with newfound energy. In New Delhi, Dr. Patel looked up from her station, eyes wide. They actually did it. Across the planet, human outposts and command centers erupted in celebration. In London's Trafalgar Square, crowds spilled into the streets, dancing. Beneath makeshift holographic banners reading, "Helios saves the world." In Johannesburg, church bells tolled in unison. In Rio de Janeiro, samba drums pounded out a rhythm of triumph. Admiral Sato, on the bridge of the Kagayaki, allowed himself a rare smile. "All ships maintain shield integrity," he called, "but prepare to advance on the enemy fleet." His voice carried relief and a rekindled ferocity. From orbit, human frigates streaked toward the compromised dreadnoughts. Without the obsidian lance standing as deterrent, the zenithal formation wavered. Point defense lasers and railgun. Salvos struck the outermost ships, crippling their shields and ripping open breaches in their hulls. The Empire unravels on Oblivion's edge. Panic began to spread. High Chancellor Mailcorp's personal envoy beamed in an urgent communique, shimmering across the command holoscreen. Mailcorp's lithic face was masked in calm fury. "Colonel Breakthrough," Mailcorp intoned, "explained the loss of the lance." Breakthrough's tone was rigid. "Unknown anomaly, High Chancellor. The weapon's core imploded without detonation." Mailcorp's crystalline eyes bored into the feed. "Recover every fragment. Send your most trusted to that location. I will not have this sabotage. Go unanswered." As the transmission ended, the dreadnought's bridge auditors buzzed like agitated hornets. Questions flared. Who had penetrated the Empire's defenses? Could Earth replicate the Helios tech? In the Grand Conclave's war room, a violet-skinned dignitary spat in contempt. "These humans, they play with black hole magic. We must crush them, utterly erase their world." Others hesitated. The loss of the lance, an icon of Zenithal. Supremacy was a humiliation unprecedented. To press on might invite further failures. A statement from Earth, back on Earth's surface. President Luz Carmen addressed the world in a live broadcast, standing before a semicircle of national flags. In Geneva's rebuilt Peace Plaza, her expression was resolute. Today, Project Helios saved our planet. But let us not be blinded by triumph. This war is not over. The Zenithal Empire will strike back with vengeance. We must remain vigilant, united, and inventive. Her words echoed across every continent. In Moscow, technicians redoubled efforts to expand the Helios swarm. In Nairobi, engineers began adapting the technology for civilian power grids. From Berlin's biotech labs to Santiago's aerospace yards, researchers collaborated on reverse engineering the nanoparticle designs and on safeguarding them against misuse. The calm before the storm, under the battered dome of the Quantum. SHIELD, Earth's defenders regrouped. Drones recharged, reactors cooled, and armies stood at the ready. The world knew victory was not in hand, only hope had been rekindled. High Chancellor Melchior, aboard the Rift-borne envoy ship, surveyed Earth's gleaming shield from orbit. His jaw tightened. The humans had seized the initiative with a gambit as bold as any. Zenithal conquests. He left the observation deck silently and prepared his own response. Deep within the Empire's armories, the obsidian lance would be reforged and new terrors unleashed. But for one shining, fragile moment, humanity had prevailed. Beneath the shimmering shield, on the living planet they called home, a species once fractured had found its center, and in doing so, proved that unity and ingenuity could turn the tide of cosmic war god as dawn broke on July 28, 2025. The Earth exhaled and held its breath for the next chapter of the fight. The Riftborn glided into Earth's orbital station at dawn, its iridescent hull reflecting the pale crescent of the planet below. Docking clamps engaged with a gentle thrum, and the airlock cycled open. A delegation of Zenithal envoys, led by High Chancellor Melchior himself, floated through the corridor in silent formation. Opposite them stood Earth's ambassadors, President Luz Carmen, Admiral Kenji Sato, Dr. Aisha Patel, and Dr. Elena Marcus, awaiting on the station's observation deck. The hand of Peace Melchior descended the ramp with measured grace. His obsidian robes contrasted by the simple uniforms of humanity's delegation. The chamber's glass wall framed Earth in serene blues and greens, a world that had defied his empire's might. For the first time in millennia, the Zenithal conqueror felt uncertainty in his heart that President Carmen stepped forward. "Hi, Chancellor, welcome to the Council of Worlds. You come as my guest, not as an adversary." Her voice was firm, yet laced with genuine compassion. Melchior inclined his head, the crystalline facets of his garb catching the morning light. "I come to acknowledge defeat and to seek a path forward." He extended his hand, wrist articulated. In the Zenithal greeting, Carmen clasped it, the resonance of two species meeting echoing softly through the deck. Foundations of alliance. In the weeks that followed, Earth became an interstellar hub of unprecedented cooperation. The Riftborn remained docked at the station, transformed into a neutral research vessel. Human and Zenithal scientists worked side by side in newly christened Harmony Labs, where quantum physicists and nanobiologists shared whiteboards, data, cores, and occasionally, cups of aromatic Terran tea. Dr. Marcus stood before a hollow projection of the Helios nanoparticle lattice, now adapted to stabilize artificial gravity fields for deep space habitats. Beside her, Zenithal engineer Virasel sketched new containment protocols. "With your swarm," Virasel murmured, "we can terraform uninhabitable moons within decades." Marcus smiled. "And with your singularity manipulation, we can protect against cosmic radiation in ways we never dreamed." Their laughter echoed in the lab, a sound both hopeful and miraculous. Mending wounds, not all scars healed swiftly. In former battle zones, coastal cities now ringed by ceremonial monuments, survivors shared stories of loss. A garden of resilience. In Buenos Aires became a pilgrimage site, its mosaic of broken dreadnought fragments and native flora symbolizing regeneration. Volunteers, both human and zenithal, tended the gardens together, planting seeds that would one day bloom beneath twin suns. Admiral Sato led decommissioning crews on the Oblivion's edge, now repurposed as a training carrier for joint peacekeeping forces. Tau-class frigates, once Earth's frontline defiance, docked alongside zenithal star interceptors. Young cadets of mixed heritage from Nairobi, Nova Zenithalis, Lagos, and Orpheus Prime learned navigation, tactics, and diplomacy in a single curriculum. A ceremony among the stars on August 24th, exactly 1 month after the first salvo, a grand ceremony convened in Earth's orbit. The quantum shield array, once a harbinger of war, now transformed into the Aurora beacon, a luminous ring that pulsed to signal both defense readiness and interstellar friendship. President Carmen spoke before assembled dignitaries from 100 worlds. We declare this day not as the end of conflict, but as the beginning of a shared journey. Together, we will explore, learn, and protect this galaxy, and perhaps, one day, others. High Chancellor Maelker followed her with an address in fluent Terran Common. We thought conquest would grant us greatness. We have learned instead that greatness lies in unity. May the Zenithal Empire and Earth, and all who join us walk forward in peace. Horizons unbound. Following the ceremony, the first joint expedition ship, Stellar Concord, launched toward the Alpha Centauri system. Its crew, a tapestry of human and zenithal officers, charted courses through nebulae, once forbidden by war. They carried scientific payloads and cultural artifacts, Earth's music archives, zenithal crystalline art, and a single, simple message encoded for any who should find them. When stars join, hope ignites. Back on Earth, classrooms taught zenithal language alongside Mandarin and Spanish. Festivals in Cairo blended ancient human rituals with zenithal luminal. Dances, economies intertwined. Terran reactors powered zenithal command stations. Zenithal energy transducers stabilized Earth's grid during solar storms. Legacy of unity in the decades to come. History would record July 24th to 28th, 2025, as the peaceful convergence, a turning point when a small world stunned a galactic empire and turned its wrath into alliance. Statues of interlocked hands sprouted on Luna Zenithalis, Mars, and Orpheus Prime, silent testimonials to what could be achieved when walls dissolved. President Carmen, now elder stateswoman, often recalled the earliest broadcast. We offered parley, not subjugation, she reminded new generations. And they answered with peace. High Chancellor Maelker's final act before passing the Crystal Throne was to grant Earth full conclave representation, a ceremonial seat among the 1,000 worlds. In his parting words, let this seat stand as a beacon of humility, courage, and the boundless strength found in unity. Thus, the story of Earth's instantaneous victory faded into legend, not as a tale of domination, but as a chronicle of collaboration. Across star-strewn oceans of darkness, the beacon of humanity's unity shone brightest, illuminating a future uncharted and limitless, where empires and planets alike dared to dream together beneath shared skies.